Welcome, friends. My name is Avinash Gorakshakar, and I welcome all of you to another interesting episode of Konexio HighFlyers. Friends, in these episodes, we introduce to you emerging companies from emerging sectors and talk to them about their business models, their growth journey, and their future prospects. And in this process, we make an effort to talk to the promoters and the key management team members so that all of us can understand their company's operations better. And today, friends, we have got a very interesting company by the name of Canarys Automation Limited, and we have the privilege of having the executive director and the chief executive officer, Mr. Sheshadri, Yedavanahalli Srinivas. Srinivas ji, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for sparing your valuable time. So I hope this program will be very productive for us, so that we can understand your company's operations better for all our viewers.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Avinash ji.
First question is, Mr. Sheshadri, if you could tell us, something about the company's business model. We have read your prospectus, your presentation. If you could give us briefly, what is the company's main business model? What is the business model consists of? And, how did this business journey start? Typically, we find very rarely companies into IT services and waste resource management. This combination is little unique. So if you could tell us something about your business journey, how you started this business, and then enlighten our viewers, please.
Sure. Thanks. I think let me start with a brief background about the company. When we started, and then we can talk about the business model, and I can also give the various the business units what we have. So, Canaries we started in 1991. It's a Bangalore-based company. We have headquartered here in Bangalore. Based out in Banashankar, which is the southern part of the Bangalore, if you're aware of the geography. And then we also have the two subsidiaries, one in New Jersey, US, which caters the North American, part of the business. And then we have one more subsidiary based out in Singapore, which caters the APAC region. So we started in 1991, as I mentioned, and it was a small shop, in Jayanagar. We started from 1991 to up to 2000. It was a small scale, services we were catering, and 2000 we started working with the large Indian software companies. Started receiving good orders from the software companies from the Indian market, and we ventured into the North American business in mid 2000, probably around 2005, 2006. We started working with North American based customers. From there, we started expanding around 2000. Early 2010, we started the water resource management business as well. We've been in the IT services from the inception. We also had some homegrown solutions during that time, and then we were catering all the IT services need in the Indian market and the US. Slowly, we also penetrated into the APAC region. So if you look at the current status quo of the business, we have grown multiple times from the time of inception to till date. We are around 350 people team today, with 30 plus years of experience. Catering around 10 different countries, customer base across 10 different countries. Today, we call ourselves as the IT solutions company. So we have transitioned from IT services into IT solutions, what we call today. So Canarys is called as an IT solutions and technology solutions company. So we are into two different business today. One is the what I call it as the technology solution. The other one is the water resource management solution. So under technology solution, we do a complete digital transformation. That's a key thing that we work. When I say digital transformation, it starts from digitization. Then we get into the modernization. We do cloudification. then automation, transformation, and intelligence. So this entire value chain, what we call it as the digital transformation. So in technology solutions space, we do this digital transformation. Then under water resource management, again, we have different solutions. One, we do the canal modernization. So we work quite a lot on the canal modernization piece. Then we do the data process and data validation, and the cloud services for the water management. We also have what we call it as the flood early warning solutions, and then we do the automation at the SCADA gate control. So the company is divided into these two business, and we have customers in both the business today, Vinashji.
No, fine. I think very well articulated, Mr. Sheshadri. Now, tell me one thing. Water resource management, which you mentioned now, does this segment largely consist of government customers, or are there any private customers also? If you could give us some color on this.
It's all the government customers. You are absolutely right. So we work with only the government bodies here, because the water resource is owned by the government bodies. So it is
Exactly.
operated and owned by the government bodies, and we work with only government bodies when it comes to water resource management.
Okay. Now, tell me one thing, adding a little more to this topic, water resource management. Now, what is the kind of growth opportunity, Mr. Sheshadri, which you can visualize over the next, say, 2 to 3 years? Since this is a government-owned property, obviously there must be tendering, kind of, and then orders must be coming in. So, typically, question number one is what is the potential going forward over the next, say, 2 to 3 years? And secondly, is this an order book driven business? Like, depending on the order book, tenders are opened and you execute the plans. So if you could add some color on this.
Sure. I think the business goes like this. You're absolutely right. It is all tender based. People participate in the tender and we win the bid and then we take it. So the typical tender process, it is the what we call it as 5 plus 1 years, or 4 plus 1 years. So it depends on the
Okay.
tendering. So generally, what it consists of is SITC, what we call. So we supply, we install, we test, and then we commission. So the entire process would take typically around a year. And post that, it is the O&M, what we call
Ah,
operations and management. So that will run for 4 to 5 years.
okay.
And that's a kind of, if you want to relate, it's a kind of an AMC model. So where
Okay.
typically it works. So generally people participate in the tender, and you have to provide the solution. So the business consists of two things here. One is on the hardware and then the software. So it's a combination of both hardware and software. So when I say hardware, it is the electronics that you'll have to deploy in the canals. What we call it as, these are the sensors. So these sensors capture data from water. So the various parameters, like the water flow, water density, so various other parameters are captured by these sensors, and
Okay.
the data is relayed to what we call it as the stations, and from stations it goes to the central server, and from central server the data process happens. And once the data process is done, so the data is relayed to multiple government organizations, and they use it for various different purposes. So government owns the data, and we provide, we act as the solution providers giving this. So that's about the tender processing. When it comes to the opportunity, I think government is investing quite a lot into the water resource management today, and with the kind of experience what we have seen and the kind of benchmark what the government has done, looking at the historical data, so they spend about approximately 32,000 rupees in modernizing per hectare, and government has planned to modernize about 3 crore hectares in the next 7 to 10 years timeline. And
Okay.
looking at this kind of an opportunity, if you want to convert the math and arrive at the equation, it is about even considering about 50% of the total conversion, right, which is about 1.5 crore hectares. So the opportunity is about 50,000 crores for next 5 years. So that's a kind of budget even the government has planned, and
Okay.
this is pan India. So every government works in a different way, and every government is investing, every state is investing quite a lot into the water resource management. I think with our honorable PM announcing the Jal Shakti schemes, and giving a lot of importance on these water resource, so they are spending a good amount of money on water resource management, and we see good potential in this market.
Oh, fine. I think quite well explained by you. Another thing, Mr. Sheshadri, is when you say Pan India, is the company operating Pan India for water resource management projects, or is it largely the South market, because you all are based in Bangalore? So is the business Pan India based? If you could tell us that. And secondly, in terms of the revenue mix for FY23, what kind of revenue came from water resources and what kind of revenue came from IT, technology solutions. If you could tell us that.
Yeah, I think we operate not just in South India. We work with the various other state governments today. The plan is to expand our business in various other states. So we work with Karnataka's government. We work with the Tamil Nadu. We work with Odisha. We work with West Bengal. So and we are trying to work with other state governments as well. The plan is to, as I mentioned, expand pan India. The split between the water resource management and the technology solution, if I want to say, it's about 40%. We have 35 to 45. I mean, 35 to 40% has come from the water resource management in 22,
Okay.
23, and rest 60 to 65 it is from the technology solutions.
Okay. Now coming on the technology solution side, if you could tell us, what are the key business, segments consisting of, like who are the main, sector segments where you cater with these technology solutions? If you could give us some flavor on that. And secondly, in terms of the market opportunity, like what you mentioned for the water resource, business, how big is this market? Say over the next, say 2 to 3 years, can we expect double-digit growth here? So if you could add some, inputs on this.
Sure. I think in terms of the segment, what we call it as the BRIM. BRIM stands for, I mean, we have coined ourselves this name as BRIM. So BRIM stands for B is banking, R as retail, I as an insurance, and M as manufacturing. So these are the four different segments that we cater.
Okay.
We focus, I would say, and then there are other segments where they come to us, and we never say no. I mean, it's a business. So but the focus areas are BRIM, and we provide solutions on these segments. Typically, the reason behind picking up these segments also, these segments adopt technology much faster compared to any other segment. Looking at, say, for example, banking and insurance. So it's a, they are one of the oldest segments available today, right? And they have matured quite a lot in terms of the business, in terms of even catering the services to the customers. So without the technology, it would be very difficult for them to scale and provide the required service and also be competitive in the market. So with that said, I think we see good amount of growth in banking and insurance segment. Retail and manufacturing, they are picking up quite a lot. So they were predominantly more like a manual earlier, but with the kind of the fast-paced adoption in terms of the technology and the spend. So retail and manufacturing is picking up quite a lot, and they're investing heavily on the IT systems and the technology. So that's where we also started working with retail and manufacturing industries. So in terms of the business growth and the opportunity for us, so we work on two different markets. One is the domestic, which we cater to the Indian market, and we also export, as I mentioned. So we work with 10 plus different countries across the globe. Even though we are predominantly focused on North America, and now we started focusing on the APAC region, but we have dealt quite a lot of solutions and projects with European, UK, even Middle East. So there are a lot of countries that we have served. So looking at the kind of solutions that we work today, the digital transformation. So after the COVID impact, right? So companies have started investing heavily on the digital solutions. So it was inevitable, for customers not to be in this space. So they started adopting quite a lot of solutions in the digital space. So the overall market, I would say, for digitalization and modernization alone, stands at around 800 billion. So that's a kind of market, that is available. And India contributes probably around 15%. And as I said, we are into both domestic as well as export. So we see good amount of opportunities in these segments. And apart from this, we are also into automation. So automation is picking up quite a lot with the kind of bots available in the market. And if you have heard about the robotic process automation getting adopted in multiple, even in banking and insurance segments. And today the interaction with bots have become more than human, I would say. So wherever you go, even on the website, if you want to interact, so there's a bot popping up, and we start interacting with them. And even the IVRs, when you call, there are bots answering than the human intervention. So with that, I think the mundane tasks are getting automated, and that's how the industries are also adopting the technology. So the automation alone, I would say, in next 5 to 7 years, it's about $500 billion market.
Okay. So fine, I think very well articulated by you. Now tell me one thing, in the technology solution business, does a large part of the company's revenue come from repeat customers? And secondly, just a kind of a reminder for the water resource management business, what could be the kind of current order book the company has? Like typically, does it have a 3 month kind of order book or a 2 month order book? How do you plan your, projects based on the kind of business you get? So since it's an order book driven business, if you could, tell us how that business works. And secondly, on the technology solutions, is it more of a repeat business, or do you also determine more new customers as you go forward?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question. So it's a combination, I would say. I'll probably split this into both technology solutions and the water resource management. So we spoke about the water resource management. So it's a tender based, and when we win the tender, it's typically for 5 years. So 1 year installation and commissioning, and the other 4 years on the operations and management. So that typically is annuity business. So after first year, it's a kind of an annuity business that we get. In technology solution space, we work on, I would say, two or three different models. Um, One, we enter with our solutions, and then we do a POC and we implement solutions with our customers. Once the solution is implemented, we get into the managed solutions. So this managed solutions are typically the annuity business. So we get the annuity business typically between 1 and 3 years. So some of the companies sign up for yearly contract, and then they renew that year on year. Some large enterprise customers, they sign the contract for 3 years. So it is typically the managed solutions run for 1 year to 3 years, and then we also have what we call it as the support activities. So support activities are again the annuity business. So generally it's an yearly contract. They renew that. And apart from that, we also have what we call it as the fixed bids. So we participate in fixed bid projects as well, and that will be duration based. So if we win a fixed bid, so it can run anywhere between 6 months to 18 months depending on the size of the project. And then comes the managed solution or the managed services.
Right. In terms of the differentiation factor, Mr. Sheshadri, how would you differentiate our company's operations both in the technology solution and the water resource management space? Like there are obviously competing companies, but in your perspective as a promoter, what is so different about our company which adds a lot of value to the customer, and the customers also find your company better, more value for them? So, in your process, if you could, give us two, three qualitative checkpoints, how exactly are we adding more value to the customers, and how are you doing it in a much better way? If you could share your thoughts.
Sure, I think it's a typical question. I keep getting this, and there are multiple parameters I would say here. Um, One, we are in the industry for last 30 plus years, and the story behind choosing solutions in the digital transformation space also tags to this 30 plus years of legacy. So if you have typically seen the IT cycles, right? So it has gone multiple changes. That's inevitable, right? Every 5 years there's a change in the technology, or every 2 years. Now, with the fast pace and with the kind of the the intelligence piece, what we are seeing, the chat GPTs of the world, right? So every 6 months it is changing. So with 30 years in the industry, we have seen multiple changes ourselves. So when we go and talk to customers, uh, the value add what we say is we have experienced these changes, because being 30 years in the industry, we have seen probably about 5 to 6 technology cycle change. So we started with VB 4.0, and then today, if you look at the chat GPTs of the world, so there's enormous amount of change which has happened. So we not just deliver, but we take the kind of experience what we have undergone in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the code modernization, or in terms of the app modernization. So we have seen the challenges, how the industries have adopted. So that's a real value add. So the modern companies today who are in the industry for the last 5 to 10 years, they might have not seen the legacy. They might have
Yeah.
not dealt the legacy working with them, right? So we have dealt that kind of a legacy. So that's a real good value add. And the second is the a proprietary technology solution piece. We have been working with Microsoft for the last 17, 18 years. So we are one of the premium solution partners of Microsoft, and we have seen multiple ways how Microsoft has enabled Canarys going to the customer. In terms of the technology, we have delivered a lot of proprietary solutions which are available in the marketplace. So we take these frameworks and then we go to customers. So it's not like we pick up the projects raw and then work on it. So that's another key differentiation. And of course, in IT, the main differentiation is the people. So we have a pretty good leadership team. We have a strong technology leaders available, and we have a deep expertise on a lot of technical areas. So that's one of the key differentiators, I would say.
No, fine. I think very well articulated, sir. Now, tell me one thing. If you could share with us, what are the broad financials for your latest financial year, that is FY23. If you could give us some idea about what is the kind of revenue, profit, the company generated, some flavor so that it can help our viewers.
So, 23, we closed around 75 crores on the top line, and PAT stands at around close to around 12%. So, EBITDA is around 18%. Um, so, we have grown. I think if you look at the kind of growth that we have seen, it is the last 3 years. It's all double-digit growth that we have seen, and it's not only double digit. I would say it's an enormous growth. It's if you look at 2021, between 2021 and 21-22, it's almost 100% growth what we have seen. And
Okay.
then
Okay.
that's a kind of growth that we have seen in the last 3 years.
And Mr. Sheshadri, one thing which I wanted to understand little more clearly, what is the kind of client concentration, for both the technology solution business as well as the water resource management business? I mean, do you have a broad customer base which can safely, one can assume that, there are many customers which actually contribute to this top line? Or is it a concentrated kind of basket, as of now?
No, it is evenly spread. We have multiple buckets available. So the large enterprise customers are also available, and then we also have the SME buckets. So typically, because the government, it's a different one, because the government bodies are the customers, so there's nothing called small or big. So it's a state driven projects. But in technology solution, we have the large enterprise, and then SMEs, and also the small customers. So we have divided that purposefully, so that the risk is mitigated, evenly distributed. It's not concentrated heavily on any of these buckets. And we have very good customer base,
Okay.
both in India as well as on the outside India.
Okay. Fine. I think one more thing which I wanted to understand. Now you said your EBITDA margins are close to about 17, 18%. So, Mr. Sheshadri, hopefully, without putting a number, if you could just share an outlook, what kind of, are you confident that at least these numbers can be sustained, because 18% is not bad. I mean, obviously, there is always room for improvement. But can we assume that over the next, say, 1 to 2 years, there could be a good margin expansion possible, provided you get good projects, from the technology solution space and the water resource management kind of spaces?
Definitely, I think we are anticipating good growth, and company will endeavor to maintain the growth and profitability and margins, as we see today. And the kind of commitment that we have shown the last 3 years, and the kind of growth we envisage, I can say we'll be doing a pretty decent job.
Okay. Okay, now coming to the working capital part of the business, see, since the water resource management is largely government-driven business, and obviously the technology solution business is, largely, privately run. How is the working capital cycle different for both these business segments? And broadly, what is the average working capital cycle for both these segments? If you could enlighten us.
On the technology solution space, not too much. I think it is between 30 and yeah, 60 days is the cycle. But water resource management, definitely on a longer side, because one, as I mentioned, it is the supply, installation, test and commission basis. So generally it is between, I would say, anywhere between 90 days to, it can go up to 180 days. So that's a kind of working cycle, working capital cycle that we need when it comes to
Okay.
the water resource.
Okay. Understood. And basically, another thing now which is very important for all of us, including you, Mr. Sheshadri, is if you could tell us something about your forthcoming IPO. I believe the company is going to go public with a initial public offer. So if you could give us some broad idea, what is the size of the offer you all are planning? What is the objective? And by when this offer is going to be made? If you could tell us a broad deadline, when are we expecting the company to hit the capital market?
So, I'm happy to say that, we are going to market end of this month. And the size of the IPO planned is between 45 crores to 45 crores and 47 crores. So the main objects of the IPO is, towards solution development in both digital transformation and water resource management. So that's one of the key objects. And we are also creating a new facility and upgrading our infrastructure to cater more people, and accommodate more people, and create more R&D and solution space. And of course, we need for working capital and the corporate purpose, so the GCP. So these are the main objects, and the plan is to expand in North America and APAC, because that's where we see good amount of traction coming in. And with water resource management, as I mentioned, we want to go pan India. Right now we are working with very few state governments, but we want to expand that as well.
No, fine. Understood. Now, tell me one thing. I wanted to ask you on the overall debt position side, Mr. Sheshadri, what is the kind of leverage the company enjoys currently? If you could give us some broad idea. As of March 23, what was the leverage on the books like?
We don't have the explicitly what we call it as debt. So only the bank facility that we are utilizing, and that's around 5 crores. What we have the facility arrangements from the bank. But apart from that, there's no other thing.
Okay. So basically, largely only this 5 crores bank facility is there. Otherwise, there are no other, long-term or short-term loans on the books, right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Now, another question which is, very interesting, from the shareholder point of view. I mean, the new shareholders. You have been, successful in running a very good company. You have generated a lot of goodwill. Now, tell me one thing. Now, new shareholders are going to join your shareholder family, Mr. Sheshadri. So, what would be your broad vision and message to them? Like on a longer term basis, how can you add value to them so that they benefit by investing in your company?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the vision of the company is, we are trying to impact positively through our solutions, which can impact the customer business very positively. So that's the kind of vision that we are driving. So we are also working on enabling all the solutions and reaching out market with our solutions. So I would like to thanks all the investors who really, have that kind of a faith and trust on us and helping us grow. Um, Rest assured that we are in the industry for the last 30 years. We have sustained a lot of hiccups in the market, and we have seen the growth. And the last 3 years growth defines that we have set the stage to grow. We are in this inflection point where we need this support to grow further and make it a big game. um, so I would say that solution is a big game going forward, and India has see other the Western countries are seeing India as one of the growing nation today, and they started looking at India different from the services industry, because India was considered more like a services industry with the kind of products and solutions emerging from the market. So other players are considering Indian companies much more respectful and profitable business. So I would say stay tuned to the solutions business and encourage us in this growth. Rest assured that we will maintain the growth and profitability.
Last question, Mr. Sheshadri, is that a very fundamental question. Like every business has got its own risk attached. We had COVID, which was one of the most biggest pandemics across the globe. Now, in our business, specifically, we have got two business segments. That is the water resource management as well as the technology solution. Now, typically, what could be the risk attached to these businesses? And 30 years is a long period for you in this industry. So, how have you managed to mitigate the risk and still emerge stronger? So, if you could add some, inputs on this, please.
So I think in IT solutions, IT product or IT services industry, one of the major risk, and I would say instead of risk, let me first start with an assets. The major assets are human resource. So because we don't stock anything, or we don't deal with any manufacturing here. So it's all the human resource and the people. So they are the biggest risk. So you'll have to work with them, retain them, ensure they are satisfied with the kind of technology that we work and we deliver to our customers. So that is, we have ensured that employees are happy, and a lot of employees who are with us for more than 10 years, more than 15, and some people are close to 20 years working with us. So that's a kind of commitment and the culture that we have built. So this culture has ensured as people love working with us, and they are giving a lot of value addition technical solutions today, and they love to work with customers, and
Okay.
they are empowered. So that's a key thing that we have witnessed people stickiness in the company. Water resource management, there is an import business, because we have to import the electronics from other countries, US and Germany. So COVID, we had a little impact because the import was little impacted because of the travel issues. So such pandemics are such I would say the natural calamities or anything happens, so that may be a little risk. But otherwise, I see only the human resource, or the people are the only risk, and if we can address that, we are good.
I think very well articulated by you, sir. And I think my best wishes to you, your entire management team, and best wishes for your forthcoming IPO. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.